WrestleMania 33 is being said by many people to be one of the best WrestleManias ever. And while I do agree that there were some truly memorable moments at the show, from the Hardy Boys returning to The Undertaker having his last match, I'd have to say that it was far from perfect, and there's a reason for this. Take a look at the matches for any WrestleMania over the past 3 years, and you'll notice something. They either have way too many matches, or they try to put as many bodies as they can into a battle royal or a ladder match. It seems as if WWE nowadays is more concerned about making sure all their big stars make it on the show so that they can get their Mania bonus, rather than actually producing a quality show that people will remember for years to come. Just look at WrestleMania 30. Sure, it only had 8 matches, but if you take a look at some of the matches that took place, you'll see what I mean. Firstly, let's look at the pre-show. There was a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match between the Usos, the Real Americans, Ryback, and Los Matadores for the belts. Now, can any of you really say that this match was memorable, or that it had a really intense build for these prestigious championships? Or did it just seem like WWE didn't know what else to do with these 8 guys, so they just put them in this meaningless match? I mean, I understand that these guys all worked hard and deserve to get their Mania paycheck, but wouldn't it have been better if, say, they built up Ryback to be a legitimate threat for the belts, leading to a 2-on-2 matchup with the Usos at WrestleMania? You know, there's a reason that the tag belts haven't felt important in so many years, and honestly, what do you expect when WWE thinks that at their biggest show of the year, they're worth as much as a throwaway match with minimal build-up? Now, I know that this match was on the pre-show, so you might say that this issue doesn't affect the main show, but that's not true. Look at the Divas Championship match, which was an invitational match, which, honestly, I don't know what the hell that means. But in this match, there was a total of 14 participants, which is just absurd. This match even took place right before the main event, where Daniel Bryan finally won the WWE Championship and beat the Authority. Now, can you honestly say that this match belongs on the same card as that? Looking back at this match, can you imagine how pumped fans would have been if AJ Lee and Naomi, two very underappreciated wrestlers, had a one-on-one contest to see who the best female wrestler is? Now that's a match that I think would have been befitting of a WrestleMania match, and I'm sure most of you would agree. Not a, let's throw all the women in because it's WrestleMania match. I mean, who would say that the Divas Championship was prestigious after seeing this debacle? Now, I can understand why WWE likes to put as many stars as they can at WrestleMania. WrestleMania is sort of like the season finale of their show. It's the culmination of everything that's happened over the past year, and to leave someone out would be a shame. But is it really worth sacrificing the prestige of their championships and the credibility of those who are fighting over it? It's not just about their titles either. It affects people's enjoyment of the shows too. Look at WrestleMania 32. That show had a whopping 12 matches, and that show was considered to be one of the worst WrestleManias in recent memory. And when you scroll through the match list, you can understand why. While this show didn't have many multi-man matches, it seemed the strategy with this show was to just lengthen it by having a lot of singles and tag matches. And while I do think it's a better idea to focus on individual storylines, rather than one giant match where no one is really the focus, this show introduced a new problem. Too damn long. Mania 32 ended up being about 5 hours long, 7 hours when you include the pre-show. Now this is just ridiculous, and I would say it's even worse than having a tag team 4-way for the tag titles take up a slot on the show, because I can at least sit through Mania 32 without falling asleep. Now this just isn't the right way to book a show. Just look at the show that preceded that year's Mania, NXT TakeOver Dallas. This show had everything. It had a great build and a great payoff with some truly amazing matches. Who could forget Asuka winning the Women's Championship from Bayley, or the war between Finn Balor and Samoa Joe over the NXT Championship, and of course the classic match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn, which personally is one of my favorite matches I've seen in WWE in the past few years. TakeOver Dallas was a critically acclaimed show and is considered to be better than WrestleMania 32. And it did all of this with only 5 matches. That's less than half the matches at WrestleMania 32. It's quite sad that the developmental brand understood the idea of quality over quantity better than the main show. Now, to be fair, NXT does have an advantage over the main roster in that they don't have one TakeOver show that's bigger than all the others. Every TakeOver show is treated as equal, so there isn't any pressure to include all their stars at each show. Although, I think WWE is fully aware of this problem and just chooses to do nothing about it. WrestleMania 32 ended up breaking WWE's attendance record with over 100,000 people, allegedly, and was their highest grossing event with $17.3 million. Now, reading that, It's clear that for them, if they can sell tickets and get pay-per-view buys and network subscriptions while simultaneously paying all their hard-working wrestlers, then it would be a win-win situation for everyone, except the fans. But I would argue that there is a way to satisfy both sides. Now, you may have noticed that when it comes to multi-man matches, I omitted one huge offender, and that's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And there's a reason for that. While this match does seem to just be a way to lump any wrestlers who aren't in a major feud into one match, I think it's the best way to get every wrestler on the biggest show of the year without making the show too long or devaluing a title in the process. The story that WWE seems to be trying to tell with the Battle Royal each year is that whoever wins it is a big deal and is going to be a future star of the company. Sure, things didn't work out with Cesaro, and Big Show doesn't have many years left in him anyways, but look at how much Baron Corbin benefited from it. After winning the Battle Royal, he went on to become one of the top stars on SmackDown. Having a match each year at Mania that basically implies whoever wins it will be a future star in the company is a great use of all these wrestlers, over bloating your show with so many matches that you're exhausted before the main event starts. Now, some of you might argue that this would mean some wrestlers might get shafted because they aren't currently in a storyline. For example, guys like Dolph Ziggler and Sami Zayn were in this year's Battle Royal, and many would argue they deserve better. While I would argue that those two probably did deserve better at this year's card, I think sometimes it's necessary to have some top stars fill up this match. For one, it gives a match much more credibility if they or an up-and-comer win it, because if Mojo Rawley, for example, won this year's Battle Royal by just beating jobbers like Bo Dallas or Curtis Axel, no one would care. And another reason is that it inspires competition each year. The problem with booking a show like WrestleMania 32, where almost the entire roster has their own unique match, is you're basically telling your talent that they're all winners. You're giving everyone their big moment, and essentially this means that everyone gets their WrestleMania moment just by virtue of having a contract. By omitting certain wrestlers from the main card and putting them in the Battle Royal on the pre-show, you're showing them that only the premier talent get to be on the main card, and this in turn should make the talent more competitive and give the viewers a better product year-round. WrestleMania 31 is a perfect example of this. This show ended up having only 9 matches, with the main card being filled with matches featuring only the top feuds going on at the time. Matches like John Cena vs. Rusev, Seth Rollins vs. Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns vs. Brock Lesnar. And on the pre-show, while they did end up having another multi-team match, they also had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which featured all the other wrestlers who weren't on the main card. Now, because of this show ended up being considered one of the best WrestleManias in recent memory, and this primarily is because it was filled with matches and characters that we were invested in. There was rarely any filler on the main show. Sadly, it doesn't seem like WWE will be going back to this formula anytime soon. In fact, it looks like it will only get worse. Just weeks before SummerSlam 2015, WWE announced that the biggest party of the summer would now be 4 hours long. And watching the show, you can see that it had the same problems as the recent Manias, with way too many multi-person matches. Who can honestly say that the storyline between Team PCB, Team Bad, and Team Bella had any purpose other than to give the new women from NXT something to do at the time, completely devaluing the championship they should have been trying to challenge for in turn? Or that the rivalry between Ryback, Big Show, and The Miz had you at the edge of your seats waiting to see who would walk away with the Intercontinental title? It seems as if now the WrestleMania problem is spreading to any big show WWE has. We can only hope that WWE fixes this problem before every pay-per-view is filled with 12 Fatal 4-Ways and 5 Battle Royals.